For most men, cold approach is this crazy, overcomplicated process. It can be a frustrating, overwhelming, nerve-wracking experience, but it doesn't need to be that way. If you can just master these 10 laws, it will make approaching women not only effortless, but actually fun. And to make it even easier for you guys, I'm gonna be showing you live demos along the way for all of these 10 laws. And I promise you, by the end of this video, approaching an attractive girl the next time she walks by, it's no longer gonna be this anxiety-inducing experience, but rather a genuine opportunity for you to connect with a high-quality woman. So let's get into law number 1, which is your position on the field determines how easily you can score. Now, most men mess this up instantly by approaching women from a bad distance or from the wrong angle. If you're too close, it's gonna feel intrusive and creepy, and as a result of that, the girl's gonna be turned off instantly. Which also means whatever you're about to say is irrelevant. They are no longer even receptive to hearing the words that are gonna come out of your mouth. And opening from behind is just straight up creepy. It's gonna trigger this fight or flight response. Like, imagine you were walking and someone tapped you from behind. Instantly, it's gonna create this like eject kind of a feeling. So I would definitely avoid that as well. Which means the best way to actually start an interaction is gonna be either going at the girl head on from a very safe distance where she could clearly see you ahead of time. Or if that's not an option, it's gonna be opening from the side, again from a safe distance in a confident yet non-threatening way, which I'm going to explain exactly how to do that in this video. And the advanced tip for law number 1 has to do with nighttime environments. So for my guys that are a little bit more intermediate or advanced, instead of just approaching a girl head on, in nighttime environments, most attractive women are also with friends or a group of people. So if you're already a socially confident dude, I would actually recommend opening some of the people in the surrounding environment, vibing with those people so they already approve of you, and you can then pivot your way into an interaction with the girl that you're really interested in. And since you've already been socializing with some of the people she knows, it's no longer a cold approach, and the girl will be a lot more receptive to getting into an interaction with you. Let's move into law number 2, which is your voice can make or break the first sentence. Now, your voice consists of different elements. It's the volume that you're speaking at, the tonality of your voice, like the pitch of your voice, the speed that you're talking at, and then also the pronunciation or an accent if some of you guys may have one. And all of these different elements can play to your advantage or disadvantage depending on the way that you use your voice. So here's 3 mistakes that you want to avoid when it comes to using your voice. Number 1, most men start an interaction in a very weak, apologetic demeanor. That actually displays lack of confidence, and it also gives off this vibe of like being a creepy guy who's like afraid of what he's about to say to the girl. So understand, even though you don't want to interrupt the person that you're about to open, you actually need to be able to go in confidently, project your voice more, and speak at a loud enough volume, because that's what's going to give you the best likelihood of them responding positively in the interaction. And that will take practice. So start speaking louder more consistently. As you get more comfortable with it, you'll be able to give yourself that entitlement to speak louder more frequently. Mistake number 2 is if your voice is very high-pitched, you're going to need to start practicing speaking at a more downward tonality. So every sentence goes down, down, not up.
Hi, how are you?
No, you need to practice speaking with downward tonality. And this may take time. You may need to practice talking into a camera and speaking and listening, but over time, you'll just start to internalize it, and that will give off a more confident, more authoritative tonality. And mistake number 3 regarding voice is that a lot of men can speak very fast, especially when they're nervous. So it's okay to talk fast at times, especially if you get excited, but what you don't want to do is start rambling because you're nervous, right? So slowing down your speech, slowing down your response time when the girl's talking. A lot of guys nervously talk over the girl, so you need to be aware of this one as well. And in my opinion, it's the hardest out of the 3 to fix, because the tonality and the volume are things you can just instantly start to fix. The nervousness is going to take time. You're going to need to get more and more comfortable sitting in these interactions and bringing awareness to deliberately trying to slow down. Breathe, take a deep breath, slow down, and over time you will actually start to relax in the interaction. Now, the advanced tip when it comes to using your voice is that you should actually be softening your voice at different times in the interaction to deliver more intensity. So a soft voice with a smile and a little bit of a wink in your eye can be used to deliver a very flirtatious line or a sexual innuendo or a tease to the girl. Or if I'm in the middle of telling a story and I pause and my voice softens, I lean in just a little bit, it creates more intensity in the story. story. So you can utilize your voice. Yes, you should be speaking loud, especially when you're opening, but on a more advanced level, you can actually soften your voice at certain times to deliver a different level of intensity. Law number 3, if you don't carry the conversation, you're done. Now remember guys, you are the one that went up and made the approach to the woman. And most people are not that skilled when it comes to starting interactions with strangers. And most men typically ask way too many questions on the front end of the interaction. So you need to switch your mindset around what's going on in the first couple minutes of a conversation and understand it's on you. You need to assume the burden of the conversation. You're going to need to carry that beginning of the interaction, not by asking too many questions. It's okay to ask a question here and there, but what you really want to do is talk more. You want to elaborate on your experience about whatever topic is going on. So be sure that you're talking in an enthusiastic, charismatic way to pump some vibe into the conversation. An advanced tip when it comes to carrying a conversation is actually understanding that sometimes it's actually better to not carry the combo. Now that's not going to be on the front end of the interaction. There's a difference between running out of things to say and being nervous, and now there's this awkward silence on the front end of an interaction, versus somebody who's a little bit more skilled, who recognizes that we're several minutes into the conversation and the girl is actually hooked into the convo, and now you can actually pull back a little bit and give her an opportunity to fill in one of the silences. But when this opportunity does happen, if you could just still play it cool and you're relaxed in the interaction, oftentimes if the girl's already into you, she will then fill in that silence, and that's a great moment for her to start investing more into the conversation, to start to flip the dynamic of what's going on in the interaction. Let's get into law number 4, which is there needs to be context as to why you're talking to the girl. Now, in a nighttime environment where there's a lot of people that went out to go be social, there's a little bit more implied context because we're all out at this social gathering. However, in the daytime, if you're just going up to a girl and you're cold approaching, you need to some extent get to the point as to why you're talking to her. Otherwise, it's very, very random. Like if you're going up to a girl on the street and you just start asking her about the weather, that's kind of random. So in daytime, you're gonna need to provide more context as to why you're talking to the girl early on. Nighttime, you don't need to do it as soon in the interaction, but regardless of what environment, at some point, you still need to get to the point, dude. Don't be the guy who's just rambling on for 5, 10, 20 minutes about indirect conversation. I would say within the first couple of minutes, you need to at least subtly start to sprinkle in some idea that this is a little bit more of a man-to-woman interaction. And that can be done by injecting intent right off of the open, but you don't necessarily need to do that. I would actually say on a more skilled level, on a more advanced level, you don't display that much intent. You're actually just a good conversationalist, and then you can subtly start to crank up that intensity by sprinkling it in here and there. And that brings me into the advanced tip for law number 4, which is you don't need to continuously display intent as a means of bringing it back to a man-to-woman interaction. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can bring the context of the conversation back to me and the woman without pedestalizing the girl. And oftentimes you want to make the underlying frame of the interaction about me and the girl, but it's not always done in the positive. You can also do it in the negative, telling the girl why things may not work out, or if we were to hang out, I don't know if this would be a good idea because of blank tease. So yes, it's a good idea to move the interaction forward from time to time about me and the girl in the positive, but if you're only doing that, it creates this pedestalizing effect where you're constantly pushing for us to be together. I think a better way to do it is to have positives but also negatives, which will allow you to bring up the idea of you and the girl twice as often, but the net actually cancels out, and so it's never over complimentary. So there's a variety of different ways you could bring the interaction back to being a man-to-woman conversation without over pedestalizing, without being over complimentary. And if you're somebody who wants to get better with flirting skills, your social confidence, and utilizing all the concepts I talk about on my channel to really build social confidence and dating abundance, click the link down below. Check out my brand new programs that I got going on for 2025. Click the link down below, fill out the application to work with me personally. Let's get into law number 5, which is do not be an emotionless robot. Now, what does that mean? Well, on the initial approach, that means before she even sees you, you should already be smiling. You don't want to approach the girl and you have this serial killer face. The moment she sees you, you should already force a smile. And I get that, yes, it may seem forced initially, but over time you will get more and more confident and comfortable with your smile. I was the guy that was very cringe, that had a serial killer face when I would go up and talk to girls, and I'm even in the middle of the convo, I'm talking like this to the girl because I'm so nervous nervous and I'm just not paying attention to my face. So I have this kind of like ghost face, serial killer face. All right, what you want to do if you're going up to the girl, I would actually recommend you kind of force yourself to smile like that, like force a tiny little smile as you're going up to the girl, and then open, because now you're no longer laughing, but you have the remains of a laughter, which is a genuine smile, and then you could start the conversation. So you want to go up and make sure that that first impression, you have that smile, not a forced smile. Make yourself laugh a little bit, and then you open and it hits the sweet spot. Now, in the middle of the conversation, you also want to periodically inject a little bit of a smile, just a little bit while you're talking from time to time when it's relevant, because the more emotionless you are, the less emotion you will create in the interaction. And it's not just with the smile, it's your animation, it's your gesticulation, it's your eyes. Your entire body and face is an instrument at the end of the day. So it's not just the words that are coming out of your mouth. Dudes hyperfixate on the words, when in reality, it's not so much about the words, it's about the vibe that you could give off. It's about the emotion that you can create with your face, with your hands, with the tonality, the speed that you deliver it at. All of these different elements create an emotional impact on the person you're interacting with. For the advanced tip for number 5, yes, smiling is great. Yes, a little bit of laughter is important to create emotions. However, there are certain guys that are too funny. You're too much on the ha-ha funny, nice guy, and you laugh too much at times as a means of breaking tension. Understand, on a more advanced level, once you're actually comfortable in conversation, you want to get to a point where you can actually create tension in the interaction. The tension is created by holding the eye contact and smiling, but not necessarily filling in the silence with a laugh or breaking the tension because you have this nervous laugh. So for my advanced guys, I actually want you to dial it back. Less laughter, a little bit of a smirk, and start to get more comfortable in those periods in between sentences while you guys are just holding eye contact, because that's how tension can be created. Let's move into law number 6, which is men are like a light switch, women are like a volume knob. Now, from my experience after coaching 700 dudes over the last 6 or 7 years, most men, they prematurely rush things on so many different levels. That could be off of the initial open. They open and then they try to just close and get a phone number. That could also be in the middle of the interaction. They run a 1 to 2 minute conversation and then they're still just trying to go for the close. This could also be when you're starting to get more intimate with a woman. Like, the entire escalation process is very predictable with most men. They just kind of go robotically to the next step, to the next step, to the next step until there's resistance. And that creates a dynamic where the girl is always in control and you're just moving at whatever pace she allows you to do. And that's not the ideal position. It's very hard to lead an interaction when you're stuck in that dynamic. So instead, you need to understand that you gotta slow things down, bro. I know when you see the girl, a lot of times, especially if you're new to this, you're like really excited and you're just sold on the idea of this woman. And so you try to push. Instead, understand, I need to slowly crank up the volume for the girl to get more bought in. All right, so opening and then trying to close, absolute no-go. Running a 1 minute interaction, trying to get a phone number, absolute no-go. Slow down, and the further we get into the interaction, the more and more interest you could display as the girl also is simultaneously getting more bought into you. And same thing goes for the escalation process, guys. Just slow down and take your time with the entire escalation process. You can go slower to actually get there faster than you would trying to go fast, and then you get resistance, and you try to go again, and then you get resistance. And I've been in that position. I have very painful memories from being in those positions. So, and also on a more advanced note, when it comes to escalation, not only should you be going slow and cranking that up like a volume knob, but I would actually encourage you guys to pull back from time to time, okay? So you don't just keep going up and nice and slow. I would be escalating, but then I'm pulling back. By me being the one that's actually pulling back and breaking the escalation, it develops trust and makes the girl feel more safe that I'm not so thirsty. I'm not constantly pushing, and she's gonna need to put the brakes on me. Okay, it also creates space by me breaking away to allow the girl to then come to me, because ideally on an advanced level, the girl is also reciprocating and moving forward in the escalation process with you. Let's move into law number 7, which is the game is won in comfort. Now, when you first start learning cold approach, a lot of the tactics and techniques that you're learning on the front end is more around creating attraction. Because most guys, when they approach, they don't know how to do that confidently. They don't know how to inject flirtatiousness into a conversation. They don't know how to re-spike the girl's interest. And so all of those concepts are new. Now, as you go further and further and you get comfortable running a couple minutes of interaction, great, the girl starts to be intrigued. You guys can get into a couple minutes of conversation. You get into some get to know you, back and forth banter. All of that is really great. However, that alone is not going to really get you the girl. It might create some intrigue, some curiosity. It may even get you some phone numbers, but understand the game is really won when it comes to comfort. And this is especially applicable in longer interactions. Like that could be daytime going on an Insta date. That could be nighttime in a longer interaction that goes 20, 30, 40, 60 minutes. Or that could even be on the next date when you're hanging out with the girl. Creating attraction on the front end is great and it's an absolute necessity. But when you inject the comfort and connection building on the back end, that's what will turn a pickup into a real, genuine, strong connection. And for the advanced tip for this law, I just wanted to explain to you guys, like, this is exactly why it makes so much sense to not be so won over in the beginning of the interaction, because you genuinely don't know the girl. Yes, she has physical beauty. Yes, you are physically attracted to the girl. You should still go into the interaction being somewhat skeptical. I would recommend approaching the interaction with the mindset of, yes, we are both physically attractive, but let's actually find out if we are a good match. Or another beneficial frame would be, I wonder if she's as cool or fun or interesting as she appears to be physically attractive. And then once you actually get to know the girl and you're further into the conversation, you could then qualify her on the things that you guys have connected on. And that way, it's not just about her physical beauty. That's what really makes a powerful connection in an interaction. Let's move into law number 8, which now most men, they don't actually display sexual confidence, especially from the physical look. Your physical appearance can naturally create some level of sexual confidence. There are all of those dudes that we've seen out there that when you look at the guy, he just looks like a stud. He looks like a dude who actually gets laid, just based off the physical appearance. So for some men, a lot of sexual confidence can be displayed almost instantly just off of their appearance or the way they talk, their voice. But for other men, not so much. Those guys, I would encourage you, yes, work on your look, optimize your appearance, optimize your communication, but also understand that at some point in the interaction, you're gonna need to be able to display sexual confidence. That doesn't need to be you blatantly saying to the girl, oh my God, I'm gonna fuck you so good in bed. It just means that the way you talk in the interaction, whether it's directly or even indirectly, it needs to imply that you're confident and that you have experience with women and you could confidently lead this girl. If I look at your interaction at the end of it and think to myself, if you two were to just magically appear in a bed right now, would it make sense that you guys would end up mating? Or would that be a really weird thing? Because if it's weird and it doesn't seem like that, well then most likely you're not displaying enough sexual confidence in the interaction. And for the advanced tip for this law, I would actually recommend you guys that there are certain subtle things you could do over the course of an interaction that will very indirectly, very casually imply that you're a confident dude that could lead her. And this could be certain things like if you're crossing the street, you guys are going somewhere, you say, hey, grab my arm. Or when there's a certain moment, you give her a hug and you say, don't worry, I got you. Or if you guys are sitting, you could actually grab her chair and pull it in closer to you while you're holding good eye contact, smiling and looking at her and just say, come stay closer, right? Like those are small, subtle moves that display you're confident, you can lead her, but they're not crazy over the top. But those things do translate into the dynamic between you and the girl when you're in the bedroom. Let's get into law number 9, which is the 1 to 2 points rule. Now, what this essentially means is that your overall appearance should be, in my opinion, within 1 to 2 points of the girl. Anything beyond that, it's gonna be really difficult to get that woman. So what that means is that if you're a 6, most likely you could still get a girl who's a 7, and if you really had tight game and good lifestyle and all these other things working for you, you could probably even still get an 8, but that's really starting to push it. And what that means is that if you're a 6, you're not getting the 9, you're definitely not getting the 10, and that's just the reality of it, guys. Like, there are a lot of honest signals that are displayed to some extent from your physical appearance. I do not think that a homeless man, even if his game is tight as fuck, he's just gonna be able to go up and bag the 10. I do think that there are other external factors other than just your physical appearance that women do look at, and that's why I would say there is this 1 to 2 point range, but you also do need to be realistic with this, and that's why I tell you guys time and time again, you should also work on your look. And the advanced point to all of this is, in my opinion, any man, if you put in 6 to 12 months to optimizing your look, you could significantly increase yourself by 1 to 2 points. So a man right now, if he's a 6, and then he actually hit the gym hard, he worked on his grooming, he dressed nicer, he took care of himself in these different areas, he could very easily go from a 6 to a 7 and with enough work, probably even go up to an 8. So wherever you're at right now, just accept it and put in the work, but also understand it's not just about looks by any means. I know very good looking guys that don't get women. I know guys that are less attractive that get a lot of women. And ideally, in my opinion, you do all of it. You work on yourself, you work on your look, you optimize all pillars simultaneously. And now let's get into the final law, number 10, which is a phone number does not mean a date. Now what that means is that if you're running an interaction, just because you get the phone number does not mean you eject in that moment, especially if it's towards the beginning of an interaction. If you're 1-2 minutes in, getting a phone number at that point is going to be a very flaky phone number. In nighttime environments, a lot of phone numbers are very flaky. In daytime environments, a very short interaction will lead to a flaky phone number as well. I really struggled with this concept as well earlier on in my journey. When I finally got to a point where I was confidently starting interactions, I would get really nervous around the 1, 2, 3 minute mark of an interaction, and I would start to run out of things to say. I'd get more in my head, and so I would just prematurely go for a phone number because I was scared. And so I would get the number, and then I would eject out of the interaction, and I would be running away with this phone number as if I got a trophy. But dudes who are more intermediate or advanced will understand very quickly that like a phone number by no means equates to you actually having a date with a woman. All right, it does not work that way. So for my guys that are further along in their journey, you understand that just because I got a phone number doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it's time to eject. You stay in that interaction and you build the vibe up. You create deeper levels of rapport. And ideally, you even solidify a plan of what you and the girl are gonna do together. Do not run 1 to 2 minutes of get to know you talk and then get a phone number and then go home wondering, what am I gonna text this girl? Instead, run a longer interaction, set up plans to meet up, and then once we've agreed on a meetup, now it makes sense to actually get a phone number. And for the advanced tip for you guys, I would actually even encourage you to strategically reverse engineer the conversation so that no matter what, it ends up with us talking about what we like to do for fun. All right, after you guys flirt a little bit, there's a little bit of vibe, and then it's in get to know you talk, ask her, what do you typically do for fun? Did you do anything fun over the last weekend? You got anything fun planned for this weekend? You'll start talking about things she likes, you then start talking about things you like to do or what you have planned. And it's a very subtle transition into inviting her to come join you to do that thing. And now you actually can get a phone number that could actually convert into a date because we agreed to do this activity together. That's how it's done. Now, if you want to fast track this entire process, guys, if you want to work with me directly so you can level up your social confidence, get dating abundance, and really just become the most confident, most attractive version of yourself, I'd love to help you, okay? Got brand new coaching programs going on. Click the links down below. You can apply to work with me one-on-one if you're a high-level successful dude, or if you want to join the school community, we have a group coaching program going on. Links are in the description. That's all for this video, guys. Peace out.